Today on Locked On A's, the A's, they signed another catcher, so that's fun. We're going to talk about Yohel Pozo and what he's going to be doing in the minor leagues that could be good for the A's in 2023. And then we're going to take a look back at a previous trade that the A's have made to get some perspective on the trade that they just made and maybe feel a little bit better about what the A's are doing and try to explain why the A's keep making 4-for-1 trades. Let's get into it, you guys. How's it going, A's fans? And welcome to episode 508 of the Locked On A's podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I'm your host, noted baseball fan Jason Burke, and on today's show, the A's signed a catcher to a minor league deal. We're going to talk about him because that's how you kick off a big episode, is talking about a minor league signing. It's a very informative episode. I think that we're going to learn a lot in this episode. I like to make jokes at my own expense, though, so that's just me. But then we're going to be talking about the Mark Mulder trade from way back when, 2004, and get some perspective from that trade and maybe see what the A's could be getting in the most recent trade for Sean Murphy, and also some perspective as to why they maybe potentially go for some 4-for-1 deals these days. So that's what we got coming up for you guys today. But before we get into anything, thank you so much for making Locked On A's your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, thank you. Subscribe to the channel. Since you're already here, why not? Give us a like, give us a comment please give us a like, please give us a comment. That helps the algorithm on YouTube find other A's fans like yourself, and that helps us grow, and that is very much appreciated. So please, template, wow, so handsome, so good at baseball. Just comment that below, easy, done, hit send, love it. I will like and respond to those ones. Also, make sure to follow the podcast wherever you like to hear podcasts. We're available everywhere. And follow us on social media at Locked On A's on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at @JasonB on Twitter. And check out Inside the A's for more A's news, insight, and analysis coming your way each and every day. It's in affiliation with Sports Illustrated, so that's pretty cool. So check out Inside the A's at Inside the A's on Twitter and on Facebook, so you never miss an article over there, or just InsideTheA's.com. Either way, done. Fun. Let's get into the A's big signing. A day after trading away a catcher, the A's signed a catcher to a minor league deal, and I'm intrigued by this guy, Yohel Pozo. He was up in the big leagues for a little bit, not a huge amount of time, under 100 plate appearances. In 2021, he hit .284 with a .313 on base in 77 plate appearances. That was in 2021 with the Texas Rangers. Reports are he has defense, not great defensively. When he was up, he played, I think, 19 games, and 17 of those were at DH. So he's known for his bats. He's got great contact ability, and I enjoy that, especially with the new rules going into effect. There's going to be no shifts. Maybe he gets a little bit of a bump. Maybe he can do even better than a .284 batting average. I mean, we'll see. I'm intrigued by this guy. He has never K'd more than 13% at any stop professionally, which is ridiculous. I like that a lot. He is also not known for his walks, as you can see by that .313 batting average with the .284 batting average. The on-base batting average. You know where I'm going with that. He did walk 4.1% of the time in 2022 in AAA, so that's something. And I think that this signing makes sense and makes me feel better about the A's depth because they got Manny Pena in the Sean Murphy trade, and he's going to be the backup to Shea Langoliers to start the season, most likely, unless some injuries happen. But that seems to be where the A's are going right there. They got a veteran backstop right there to help Shea Langoliers learn the role, grow in the position, kind of be the Stephen Vogt of last year. Shea Langoliers is going to be back there a lot. But, Manny Pena is not a bad defensive catcher. He's solid back there. And then he's also not terrible with the bat. So he's going to be a nice added piece. He probably starts once a series to get Shea Langoliers a day off. But I'm intrigued by the catching situation. It's probably still going to be a position of depth, even without Sean Murphy. I talked about why the A's could actually be better in 2023, even with people not liking the trade that happened. And, the A's made some good signings. We're going to see some more platoons, I imagine, in 2023. And I think they're going to be a lot better offensively, which should lead to more wins. That's the hope. But Yohel Pozo, the reason that Manny Pena, I brought him up, is Manny Pena played 5 games in 2022. He had a wrist injury. He missed most of the season, played 5 games in 2022. So if that wrist is not, feeling good, or he needs some time on the IL, something like that, Yohel Pozo is a very nice guy to have down in the minor leagues. And you have to have some insurance just in case it happens early on, because the A's don't have major league ready catchers currently right now in the minor leagues. And so Yohel Pozo is a major league ready catcher. He has experience in the major leagues. He's not going to be able to groom Shea Langoliers like Manny Pena would, but he would offer some good at-bats at the big league level. We've seen him do it before. He played very well against the A's. I think he went 9 for 21, something like that. He was really good against the A's. He also hit a 3-run home run against Sergio Romo in his big league debut against the A's in Texas. So you may know him from that. That's his claim to fame right now. I think that's his only home run that he's hit in the big leagues as well. But other than Jonah Bride, who has some experience catching, but not at the major league level, but the A's were kind of trying to shoehorn him into being a catcher, getting some experience there during the Arizona Fall League and stuff before they added him to the 40-man roster ahead of the 2022 season. Other than him, there are no other catchers on the 40-man roster. So Yohel Pozo is the next guy in line other than Jonah Bride. And maybe they could put Jonah Bride there too in an emergency situation or otherwise? Question mark. I'd be very intrigued to see him just sitting in the squad if I don't know where the A's go if everybody gets hurt, but Jonah Bride on opening day catching probably Cole Irvin. That would be interesting, I would say. But the A's have 2 catchers that should be in AAA to start the season, and that is Tyler Soderstrom and Kyle McCann. Both are good, but both are also known for their bats. And so they're going to need some time in AAA. Soderstrom vaulted all the way from Lansing to wrapping up the 2022 season in AAA. And so he's going to need a little bit of seasoning there. Kyle McCann could potentially be called up a little bit sooner than Soderstrom just because he's been in the system a little bit longer. He did struggle for a couple of seasons in AA, but mostly in 2021 after the pandemic. And then he really turned it around in 2022. Getting the years already mixed up because we're getting late into the year. But Kyle McCann had a very nice 2022. He also finished up the season in AAA. So they're both going to need some time to get adjusted to just AAA before getting to the majors. And so Yohel Pozo makes a lot of sense in that regard. And that's why it's a good signing for the A's. He makes contact. He's like Williams Astudillo, if you know who that is. You know kind of what you're getting with him. And he hasn't really made an impact with his contact bat, Astudillo, at the major league level. But, he's something. And also Yohel Pozo in his 77 at-bats was roughly league average for on offense as a catcher. And that's really all you need for a backup catcher. It's just somebody who's not, a hole in the lineup. And Yohel Pozo might not be a hole in the lineup. So that gives the A's 3 potential catchers. I'm intrigued. But coming up, we're going to be talking about the Mark Mulder trade from 2004 to give us some perspective and maybe some hope for the Sean Murphy trade. We'll get into that here in just a second. You're hanging out with friends and putting back a few drinks. A few becomes a few too many. As the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you're thinking of calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds you're getting pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, you kill someone? Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers just on our roads to save lives. So if you think that you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or somebody else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. Welcome back to the Locked On A's podcast. If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to subscribe wherever you like to hear podcasts. Follow us on social media at Locked On A's on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at @JasonB on Twitter. Check out Inside the A's for more A's news, insight, and analysis. Follow Inside the A's on Twitter and on Facebook at Inside the A's. So that's easy. There's no apostrophe, so if that's been thrown and you haven't been able to find it, it's just Inside the As, like just the word as. Follow Inside the As on Twitter and on Facebook. But let's talk a little bit about the Mark Mulder trade, which it kind of sets a precedent, I think. And for some reason, I was thinking about Derek Barton the other day, and I was like, man, I hope he's doing okay. And then I found him on Instagram, and he's doing great. He's doing houses now, so he's in real estate, and that's fun. But a lot of people with this trade, the Sean Murphy trade, are just tired of 4-for-1 deals. Technically, it was a 4-for-2 deal because Yohel Pozo was also traded away. So 4-for-2, I mean, that's where the A's got their value. And also, the A's got 5 players, not 4. But anyways, 4-for-1 trades. That was a thing that I was seeing on social media a lot. And people are mad about the Sean Murphy deal because the A's were going for quantity over quality. I think Keith Law even said they went for neither quality nor quantity, quantity without the quality, something like that. He's so clever, that Keith Law. He's good at doing stuff, but he likes dunking on the A's, and I don't appreciate that. But when he's talking nicely about the A's, I like Keith Law quite a bit. But I've seen a lot of I'm tired of 4-for-1 trades on social media, which is understandable. But sometimes you just you want to go get one of those top guys, like a George Valera, who I talked about, Mason Wynn from the Cardinals, somebody like that. You want to go get that top guy who could change your system, but those guys aren't always available because those teams also like those players for themselves. So there's that. But I was looking at the Mark Mulder deal, and it's around this time of year. It's a sad time of year for a lot of people, and especially A's fans, because all of our favorite players get traded around this time of year. Tim Hudson, Mark Mulder, Josh Donaldson was traded like on Thanksgiving. Also, Sean Murphy just now. So, and you got to know that Matt Chapman and Matt Olson would have been traded at this time of year last year, if not for the owner lockout. So, I guess the lockout saved us from more holiday heartache. So, thanks, owners, for that one. But the Derek Barton deal, if you're unfamiliar with Derek Barton, he played for the A's from 2007 to 2014 in Oakland. And he was added after the 2005 season. Oh, maybe it was 2005. Misremembered. Oh, well. But I'd seen him compared to like Albert Pujols, like 4 years into his career, Albert Pujols. And I wrote down his stats. He had a 167 OPS plus at the point of this trade. He was hitting .333 in his career. Over 4 seasons, with a .413 on base, 160 home runs over 4 seasons. That's ridiculous. That's the guy that they were comparing Derek Barton to. Those are very high expectations for one guy. Keith Littman, the director of player development for the A's, compared Derek Barton to Wade Boggs and Tony Gwynn. That is high praise, and that is a lot of expectation to heap on one guy that's like in his early 20s. And so he's doing well, and that makes me happy. And hey, Derek, if you're listening, if you want to come on the show and just talk about life, that'd be great. Promote the real estate. That'd be fine. We'll talk about a little bit about baseball. That'd be fine. But you got nothing but love here from Locked On A's, because that's a tough situation. Those are tough expectations, and I feel for the guy, because he's kind of like not a joke on A's Twitter, but it's like, oh, well, blah blah blah, Derek Barton. I'm like, well, yeah, the poor guy, it stinks. And you know, that's the deal with every trade, though. I think is if you focus all of your attention on one person in that trade, and then that person does not work out, then the entire fan base is like, oh, we've been let down by this trade. And I think that is why the A's tend to focus a little bit more on 4-for-1 trades these days. And I know that this was a 3-for-1 trade and all that stuff, but I think that they try to spread out some of the talent so that they have more high floor guys as opposed to high ceiling guys, so that the fan base cannot focus on, I mean, we're kind of doing it with Ruiz now, but you can't focus all of that attention and then hopefully you don't have to also work on the mental aspect of the game with the player that you acquired that you were banking on. It's spread out a little bit. And so I think that because everybody right now is like, oh, Ruiz, I don't know. He's really fast. Can he hit? And he's going to be a focal point for A's fans, for the next couple of years probably. And there's going to be a lot of expectations on him. But the hope is that by getting 4 guys that are all kind of good, decent, maybe you spread out some of that expectation and some of those, concerns and some of that, just mental wear and tear. So it's not all on one guy. The A's also got Haren in this trade, and he was pretty good. And he'd been in the majors, which we'll talk about here in the third segment. But I think that the Derek Barton trade, or, the Mark Mulder for Derek Barton and Kiko Calero was also part of this deal. And I think that had some impact here in how the A's think about things, because they have to hit on these deals. We've talked about that a couple of times this week. They have to hit on these deals in order to keep doing the churn and burn that they always do. So they might not go for like the top guys. There's no top 100 prospects in the Sean Murphy return, but they went for skill sets that they like and that they think that they can work with. And so that's what they got. And hopefully they're right about being able to work with some of the skill sets that they got back in this deal, because we're going to see what happens. They've also, because of where their prospects were, like your Zach Geloff, your Tyler Soderstroms, some of those guys in the high minors that you're hoping to plug in before too long, maybe even in 2023, you kind of got to focus on guys that are in the upper minors so that you hit your window all at once and hopefully elongate that window. So there's a lot of play here with that Sean Murphy trade, and we were talking about it for a while. I think that everybody was initially disappointed. I think some people have come around a little bit more. I've gotten a lot of comments on YouTube saying, okay, I feel a little bit better about this trade after, your talk with Lindsey Crosby and stuff like that. And so thank you for commenting. That's very much appreciated. But I think we've all calmed down a little bit, and I think the A's will be better in 2023, regardless of how the return in this trade does. They had some holes on this roster in 2022. I don't think that they're going to be a 100 loss team. They could push for like 70, 75 wins. And that's like middle of the road expectations. If they really hit, their ceilings, they could maybe push for 80. They could be maybe a 500 team if everybody's healthy and everybody's excelling and having like career seasons. They could do fairly well. But that's a discussion for another day. Coming up, we're going to be talking about the Haren portion of the Mark Mulder trade and why that could give us a little bit of hope for Kyle Muller, another part of the return for Sean Murphy. So we're going to be doing that here in just 1 second. BetOnline.net. I didn't do the thing. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball and World Cup. They've got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, and I'm guessing you do because you're listening to one currently, me, myself, I don't know. I'm kind of iffy on sports podcasts, even though I host a highly touted 600 subscriber on YouTube podcast. They're fine. They're good, I guess. But A's podcasts, this is where you come. Locked On A's. But those sports podcasts also over at BetOnline for you guys. They have the fastest and easiest way for you to get your betting info. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more, because BetOnline is where the game starts. Welcome back to the Locked On A's podcast. If you guys are enjoying the show and you've made it this far, please leave us a 5-star review on your platform of choice. If you're on YouTube and you have not subscribed already, subscribe now. Do it now! Also, like and comment so that it helps the algorithm find other A's fans like yourself so that the podcast can grow and become the most dominant podcast in the world. That is the goal here with Locked On A's, is to dominate the world. Much like the A's, I would say. There was a tangent. There was a graph that Baseball Reference posted about the most popular teams in each state. And obviously the Dodgers won California. The Giants were nowhere to be found. And the A's had 3 states on the East Coast. One of them was like Rhode Island. Small states. But A's hugely representing on the East Coast. Take that, Yankees. Also, since you've made it this far, I came up with a funny joke today. I'm really getting into my anti-Giants thing. I was worried that I didn't hate them enough, and now, oh man, I got it. So, what's the thing that Barry Bonds and Carlos Correa have in common? Neither of them's gonna be in the Hall of Fame. Ho! Zing! Anyways, let's talk a little bit about this Mark Mulder trade from a long time ago. 17 years ago? Long time. I remember it happening and being like, ooh, boy, okay, let's see. That was my first teardown. I've been through a few more of these. So, Dan Haren, Beacon of Hope. That's what I titled this segment here. And it's because Dan Haren had some time in the St. Louis rotation before he was traded to Oakland. With St. Louis, he had a 4.85 ERA in 118 and 2/3 innings pitched, and 86 ERA plus according to Baseball Reference. Those were his general stats. His strikeout rate and walk rates were different. Baseball has changed a lot since the time of that trade, so I went with basically the stats that kind of hold consistent. Strikeouts are a much bigger part of today's game. So Kyle Muller has like roughly 1 per 9, like 9 per 9. But I think Dan Haren was like at 5.6. But the game is different. So would he have been a different pitcher? I don't know, probably. So 4.85 ERA in 118 and 2/3 innings, 86 ERA plus. Those are the big stats. Kyle Muller with Atlanta, he has a 5.14 ERA in 49 innings pitched, so a lot fewer innings, roughly 80 fewer innings, and an 84 ERA plus. That is 2% difference. 2% difference. And so if you're looking for a little bit of hope, that's the hope right there. It looked like his he couldn't control pitches in 2022. So I looked at his game logs. He made 3 starts. One of those was a rough day for him, and it was in Texas. And, that happens sometimes in Texas. We've seen it a lot. But here are the 3 games that he pitched in 2022. He went 2 2/3 innings, gave up 4 hits, 7 runs, walked 6, struck out 3 against Texas. William Contreras was the catcher. William Contreras is not a great defensive catcher. He's not good at framing. So he wasn't getting help from his catcher either. You got to think with Pena or Pozo, or maybe not Pozo, and Langoliers behind the dish, he's going to get a little bit of a bump. He's going to be learning a little bit more with a hopefully a full-time rotation job in Oakland. So that was his worst start. He walked 6 guys. But he rebounded very nicely. And these are all like 1 start a month in 3 separate months. So there's also that. So having a regular playing time is probably going to work wonders for Kyle Muller. And that's kind of what the A's do is they're like, hey, this guy now feels wanted and he's going to go excel. And it's a mental game. Baseball is 90% mental is what I've been told. So, but he also went 5 innings pitched, gave up 3 hits, 2 earned runs, walked one with 5 strikeouts against the Miami Marlins. That was with Chadwick Trump. That's a name that I remember from when he was with the Giants and being like, who the heck is this guy? Chadwick Trump. He was the catcher that day. I think that he was a fine catcher, judging by those stats. And then he also made 1 more start, went 4 2/3 innings pitched, gave up 6 hits, 2 earned runs, walked 1 again, struck out 4 against Washington. That was also with Contreras catching. So I think that switching out his catcher may have an impact here because Contreras is very much known as a bat-first catcher. And then he can also put on catcher's gear. The Astros were talking about signing him as like a backup catcher and then having him play left field. So that's what people think about his catching ability. And that's who was catching Kyle Muller 2 of his starts. And he had an 8 ERA in 2022. So I'm just saying, yeah, he struggled a little bit, but it might not be as bad as we were led to believe. It was 1 really bad start against Texas, who is also in the A's division, but I think that there is more there than the stats lead us to believe. His stats in the minors were just fine. His walk rate was just fine. He had 1 really bad start against Texas with a not great defensive catcher. I think that he's going to get a bump. Also, Dan Haren shows us the way. And I think that there's a way forward here. Kyle Muller might be a decent addition to this rotation. I know that we made fun of, him being the Braves' top prospect in a not great system, but he's got some talent. He was still the top prospect, I guess. So there's that. Contreras, here are his stats. 20th percentile in framing. That's bad. And also 50th in pop time. So he was not controlling the running game whatsoever. And you got Kyle Muller over here allowing 4 hits, walking 6 against Texas, who likes to run it a little bit. That has to be wearing on you when I'm not getting my strikes called strikes. And also, these guys keep running and he can't do anything about it. So I'm just saying Kyle Muller might be okay. That's all. I don't know that I'm going to die on that hill, but I'm intrigued by the prospect of dying on that hill. But that is all that I got for you guys today. Tomorrow, I wrote some notes. I've been seeing some chatter about Christian Pache maybe getting traded because the A's have Estuary Ruiz now, and that doesn't make sense. So I got some thoughts on that I'm going to go over. I also had some other thoughts. I forgot what they are right now, but I'm going to be talking about the A's, why they should not trade Christian Pache. I know that he wasn't great, but I think that they should not trade Christian Pache. So there's that. So I'm talking about that on tomorrow's show, which will be coming up on Friday. So get excited for that. And then again, next week, we drop down to 3 episodes a week. We'll see if I feel festive and give you a little Christmas present. There's also going to be a Festivus episode, I believe. I believe we got that squared away. So I'll be talking to the, as usual, to Bryce Paterick of Locked On Rangers. Hopefully I make him cry, and, hopefully the A's sign Joey Gallo before we record. And then also new friend Nick Morawski of Locked On Chicago White Sox. And then also old friend Scotty Bentley from Locked On Tigers. We're going to be being sad together, and then maybe we kick Bryce out because what does he have to be sad about at this point? The Rangers are doing fine. They got Jacob deGrom. He doesn't get to be sad, but the White Sox and the Rangers have plenty to be sad about, and we are going to have so much fun. Hopefully we have a good dunk session on Bryce Paterick at some point, because what podcast doesn't involve a good dunk session on Bryce Paterick? I need to clip this audio and give it to him for Christmas. But that is all that I got for you guys today. Thank you guys so much again for making the Locked On A's your first listen of the day. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, because they have instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, on YouTube, wherever you like podcasts. You can go find the Locked On Sports Today podcast, hosted by the one, the only Peter Bukowski, and I believe that he had Trey Wingo on the other day, so check that out. Trey Wingo looked like he was a captive, but I'm sure that he was saying nice things and, being very informative, but very Blair Witch Project lighting on that one. So go check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast so that I don't sound weird. The lighting here, iffy. I don't know. We're gonna work on that. Maybe for Christmas I'll get a light. Anyways, that's all that I got for you guys today. So until next time, go out and celebrate good times, A's fans, and I will talk at you tomorrow.